What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? After more than 100 episodes recorded with those very executives from companies like Disney, Amazon, Netflix, Cigna, and Google, the answer is clear. They learned lessons in leadership from the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. Some of our guests' athletic experience earned them a place in their sports Hall of Fame, like Chick-fil-A Chairman Dan Cathy. Some hung up their cleats after high school, like Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian, while others, like Condoleezza Rice, claimed they were terrible in their sport. But no matter their skill level, they have all told me that being a part of a team taught them lessons they still use as leaders today. In partnership with Maxwell Leadership, I'm your host, Don Yeager, here to give you an all-access pass to genuine, authentic, fireside chat-like conversations with today's business icons so that you can create powerful, positive change in your own organization. This is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is Constance Schwartz-Morini, CEO of SMAC Entertainment, a talent management firm, business incubator, and Emmy-nominated production company she co-founded with NFL legend Michael Strahan in 2011. Her career spans more than 3 decades across sports, entertainment, music, and media. She got her start at the National Football League, serving in various roles across television programming, sponsorship, events, marketing, and player engagement. After 10 years at the NFL, she joined the firm, creating their strategic marketing and sponsorship division. For nearly a decade, she managed Snoop Dogg, elevating his prominence as a multi-platinum selling rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, and entrepreneur. Today, at SMAC Entertainment, Constance and her team continues to manage Snoop, as well as Wiz Khalifa, Erin Andrews, and 4 Pro Football Hall of Famers, Michael Strahan, Tony Gonzalez, and Deion Sanders. That is how I developed a relationship with her. I am working with her on a book about Deion Sanders, and it doesn't get any better than this. I can't wait to talk to Constance about the lessons she learned playing softball growing up. Now visit corporatecompetitorpodcast.com/158 to download the note-taking bonus resource that we put together for you to get the most out of today's episode.
If there's no room at the table that you want to sit at, go build your own table. We weren't supposed to be here. I mean, how unlikely was it that Constance Schwartz from Yonkers, not Scarsdale, who had no contacts whatsoever, had no silver spoon, is now doing what I'm doing and built what I built? I'm not supposed to be here. Instead of looking at the rooms I'm not in, look at the rooms I'm in and look at the rooms that I built, because there wasn't room for me at someone else's table.
Constance, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited and actually was surprised and honored because I've seen a bunch of your previous guests and I was like, you want me? Like, honestly, thank you.
Are you kidding me? This is going to be so much fun. In fact, I got to tell you, my 14-year-old daughter, like, she wanted to know the backstory to the bowling team at Sacred Heart High School. Tell the story.
Okay. In Yonkers, where I grew up, my mom, my dad, like all my friends' parents, everybody was in bowling leagues. This is, the 1970s and 80s. You just got put in a league. It wasn't even a question. So I think when I was 10, 11 years old, I was in a Saturday morning bowling league and I turned out to be pretty good. And it was great and it was fun. But then I get to high school and all the kids that I was on the Saturday morning league joined the high school bowling team. And they were like, are you going to join? I'm like, no, I don't want to be on the high school bowling team. Like, it was fun for the Saturday mornings, but there's nowhere like that I just see this on my resume as like being on the high school bowling team.
And here you are. This is the first question you get in a podcast.
And this is the first question I get. I just wish I knew what I was doing back then to set up my life. But semester goes on. We're a couple months into it. All the friends on the high school bowling team are now in my freshman year biology class. And I skeeve everything. Like, at this stage of my life, at 54 years old, if there's a bug in the house, I'm screaming bloody murder, like someone's literally trying to murder me. If I'm home alone, I get my husband's size 14 shoe, I throw it on the bug and I'll just leave it there until he gets home. So when it came time to dissect a frog, absolutely not. Give me the F. Like I can't do it. It wasn't even like, oh, I'm squeamish. It was like, nope, not happening. Nope.
Okay.
All the friends whispered to the biology teacher, who's the bowling coach. She's a great bowler. Work a deal out. I'm like, I'm not joining. I've told you this multiple times. What's it going to take? I go, I'm not dissecting the frog and I'll join the bowling team. Done. I guess I was doing a little NIL negotiation back then without even knowing it. You know what? It all worked out in hindsight because A, I didn't have to dissect the gross frog, but B, I had a great time because a lot of people I think are starting to bowl again. And it not only is just a fun social sport, but it's just a great team building exercise. And the SMAC retreat in September in New York, we needed a team building exercise. Should we go do an escape room? Should we do this? I'm like, nope, we're going bowling because whoever sucks on your team, they're going to have guilt, but that's where the anchor has to come in and help the team out.
Yeah.
So tell your daughter, thanks for that question and brought back a fond memory.
She absolutely, when I was going through my questions for you, she heard that one and it was originally question 6 or 5. She's like, you got to lead with that. That's skill right there. That is somebody I want to grow up to be.
And I had no idea, none.
That's funny. I've read so many interviews with you and you talked about setbacks and you've had a few. You had a great line. When you have a setback, something doesn't quite go as you wanted to, it's important for you to reach out to people who understand the obstacle and might actually be able to help you overcome it. One of the great challenges for a lot of us is finding those people.
It took a minute to ask for help, especially as a young woman who started in sports and then moved to hip hop. Just even how I was raised by a single mom, as a latchkey kid, which people don't even know what the heck that means nowadays, but you'd had your house key around your neck and you'd be sent
Right.
home and walk home from school. And I learned how to make a TV dinner. She was working. You just learn to become so self-sufficient, which is good and bad in a sense. Like I got married late in life and my husband's like, we're partners now. Like you've got somebody in your corner. So it is tough to understand there are people you can count on and it's okay. And I listened to a TED Talk by Brene Brown, The Power of Vulnerability.
I love that one.
Right?
Yes.
It just changed my life personally and professionally just from listening to that one TED Talk. Wow, I can ask for help. It's okay to say I don't know. It's okay to not always be in charge, to not have a handle on it and just say like, I need help. Fortunately for me, I have a great group of attorneys, business managers, the publicists. One of my best friends is an amazing, amazing entrepreneur, producer, talent manager, Stacey O'Neill. And we have strengths that complement one another. And there are multiple times where I call her, I'm like, Stacey, am I missing something here? Like, how would you handle this? And it's just so nice to have that friendship with people who have gone through similar challenges or just know what I'm going through and have that objective point of view and have nothing to gain except being there for each other. And that's why I love doing the same thing for folks, especially when people are starting a company. I had no clue what I was doing. Fortunately, a gentleman named Michael Oppenheim, unfortunately, he passed away, but was just one of the best human beings, but a business manager who, when I said, I'm going to do this, I was like, Oppie, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like he was just so patient and kind and just walked me through all the steps. And when I get a call from folks that are going off on their own, I give them the good and the bad. Got to pay it forward. I don't think we do enough of that.
Boy, isn't that the truth? But that idea, am I missing something here? You lay out a set of circumstances, giving them permission to call you blind in a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what seeking great advice is.
Right. It's going to make me better. It'll make the business better. It'll make all of us better. And look, it wasn't easy to get there. Anybody that has gone through trauma where you have to be on your own, self-sustaining, like it's hard to let go. It's okay to breathe. It's okay to let go.
Well, Brene Brown would be proud to know that she had that impact. So one of the things that is fascinating, we've watched a lot of athletes struggle post-career.
Mhm.
Many of their greatest challenges are because they weren't doing things during their career that would give them a leg up post-career.
Yeah. And you see more and more of that. Like the NFL does a broadcast boot camp now, which I think is great for these guys. It seems like the NFL is providing more opportunities for the current players to see what's possible and even when I worked there, I mean, Howard Cross, who was a New York Giant, he called me out of the blue one day and he's like, can I come intern? I just want to understand more about what you do. And that was in the mid 90s. And now the Cupcake guys, Brian Arakpo and Michael Griffin, former Tennessee Titans, opened up a Gigi's Cupcake Bakery. They were then featured in a Microsoft Surface campaign. And then they got all these calls. And then we were lucky enough to start working with them to do a show called The Cupcake Guys that aired on Roku. So a lot of these guys are getting savvier on their own to just figure it out. And one thing Michael and I have made a commitment to is if we can help any athlete we want to, not meaning we're going to take them on as a client, but just even a phone call or a Zoom, if they're like, hey, like, what's the direction we should go and things like that, just because like it was tough to navigate. And if you think about it, I mean, there's really no retired player who's created the blueprint like he has, like we have. You know, Maverick and LeBron are crushing it,
Right.
but LeBron was playing when these guys were smart enough to launch all their businesses.
Magic Johnson's kind of done it pretty well in the NBA side.
Yeah.
So obviously you've grown as a negotiator over the years, but 10 years at the NFL, and then you partner with Michael Strahan. The two of you form SMAC. I looked at the early iteration of SMAC. One of the things that stood out was your team didn't have employee titles. That was something that you were actually quite proud of. You liked that. And I know it has changed.
Yeah.
Tell us how the partnership with Michael came to be. How did you all decide and what did you want to conquer in the world?
I saw this it factor when I worked at the NFL. There was a show that the NFL produced called the NFL Lineman Challenge that the linemen would compete in at Super Bowl. We turn it around real quick. It would air on ESPN on Saturday before the game. Tracy Perlman, who's one of our mutual really good friends who worked at the NFL, said, hey, you guys should bring Strahan in, the production team. And all of us were like, okay. He won that year, which created a rift between him and Warren Sapp back then, because that's how competitive these guys are on and off the field. I would then leave to get the show ready. And Stray was like, can I come? And I'm like, you want to come? You're at the Super Bowl. Go party. Like there's so many, the Maxim party or this party, like go hang out. He's like, no, I'm good. I really want to learn this production side. I was blown away by that. Between me leaving the NFL and us forming SMAC, he was still playing. I left the NFL, stopped off at a record company for a little under a year, realized it wasn't for me, although it was a great experience. If I didn't have that pit stop, I wouldn't have learned the lesson that even if something doesn't work out, it doesn't mean it was a failure. I learned the music business. I just knew I didn't want to work at a record label. And I probably wouldn't have moved across the country from the NFL to Los Angeles. I'm a New Yorker through and through. So when I moved to LA, Michael, to his credit, stayed in touch with me, which I was a little surprised at the time because you just didn't expect, you know, these hugely successful professional athletes to go out of their way to maintain a personal friendship. Every time he was in LA, we'd go for breakfast, dinners, whatever. He'd come by the office. It really was fun watching him not just succeed on the field, but watching what he was doing off the field. Neither one of us in a million years thought we'd A, be working together or B, be building SMAC together. Fast forward, I was still working at a management company when Michael retired. And he was asking me a bunch of questions because he had some opportunities in the film and TV space or just different things of that nature. And I just said to him, look, instead of you continue to asking me for advice, why wouldn't I just manage you? He said, you have Snoop Dogg. How can you manage me? Like, I'm not big enough. Michael, you're not now, but you will be. You just could see he had it. About a year later, after he was just dragging me to a whole bunch of meetings or just coming and sitting in my office, I finally said, look, why don't you just become a partner in this business? And that's kind of how SMAC was formed.
Boy.
We were both raised by parents who had the same values and morals and confidence to put on us without even realizing it. Both of our families would say, when, not if. When you get that job, when you land that client. And I'll never forget, when I started as an assistant at the NFL back in 1991, there were definitely people who just made an assumption that you couldn't do anything except your administrative duties. I had great early bosses that would send me into a meeting on their behalf. If it's good enough for my boss, who knows the work I'm capable of, to be in this meeting representing it, why am I being defined by an assistant title? You just didn't feel good about it. I mean, I just remember someone once saying to me, like, you're a newly promoted secretary. How can I send you into this meeting? And I was like, whoa. it was good enough for me to do the work, but now you can't send me in the room because I'm a newly promoted secretary. Even to this day, like I just remember exactly who it was and the office I was in and how bad I felt.
Mm.
When we started our own company, I just never wanted anyone to have that feeling. So that was something we were very proud of. And at the time, everybody embraced it. But during the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. And that was something that our team came together on and just felt strongly that in the rooms that they were now in, people are asking them what their title is. And whether that was true or not, it was enough for Michael and I to say, if this is something that's truly bothering the team, then let's give them what they want, which then created a whole other set of problems. Because then it was like, well, I want this title, I want that title.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for.
Right. In our company, we didn't have titles for a long time too. We actually threw it out there and said, what do you want your title to be? Because I didn't care.
Yeah.
You want to be vice president of anything, I don't care.
I say.
But then, yeah, some of the titles came back. There was some grand poobah work in there.
Oh, yeah.
You do have to be a little careful. You're a manager for so many high profile clients. One of your biggest names is someone I've really grown to appreciate and love. Thank you for inviting me into the life of Deion Sanders. When he was talking about you, you quote, reshaped the whole thought process of who I am, and you influenced his entire decision to get into coaching.
If you ask any client, you'll hear a common theme is don't ask me for my opinion if you don't want it. I don't know how not to do that.
Is that the Yonkers coming out in you?
I think it's the Yonk, the YO for life, and it doesn't mean you're mean about it, but you hired me for a reason. And at the end of the day, they're the boss and they have the final say, but I'm going to go down swinging if I just really feel strongly and passionately about it. And this one was a little different. I mean, the way he and I connected was I helped Snoop Dogg start the Snoop Youth Football League. We would do something at the Super Bowl every year called the Snooper Bowl.
Right.
And his youth team would play Deion's Truth youth team. And just seeing what would go on with these 10, 11, 12-year-olds with these two, I was like, this is like some professional level coaching here right now. And he just never gave up his connectivity. And what a lot of people don't know, and they're starting to find out, is when he retired, he stayed in Dallas so he could coach. He started a Truth Youth League, which had all sports for boys and girls. He committed his life to it. And the reason the NFL Network job worked, because he was able to leave either late Saturday night or first thing Sunday and come home for his family and for the kids that he coached. As the kids got older, he wasn't so involved in Truth as much because then he was coaching high school. And then when Shador was getting ready to take off for college, he said, all right, I have a plan. I'm like, what's your plan? I sent a letter. I reached out to the AD at my alma mater and I offered to help them recruit. What? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm like, why would you do that? He said, what do you mean? Like, this is the next step for me. I'm like, no, you should be a college coach. Go for it. Just seeing the commitment that he had to these kids for Truth and then high school, he would have had a different path, but as big of a TV career as Michael Strahan, he wouldn't leave Dallas.
Yeah.
And that always just really hit home for me, because if he was willing to give up those huge opportunities to be there for the kids, I would see all these guys he played with come back and help him coach. And now, mind you, I don't know the first thing about college. I'm all about the NFL and professional sports, but I do know somebody that is very well versed in it. And that was the first phone call I made, because once Deion was like, I said, let me call Jordan Bezant, who was an agent at the time, so many coaches in college, and just somebody I grew up in the business with that I trust with my life. I said, hey, what do you think about this? Took him off guard. He said, really? I laid it out. I get it. I'm not comparing youth and high school to a Power 5 coach, but we should start somewhere. And this is Deion speaking. I mean, he's been recruited. He's the recruiter, and he's the parent of a recruit.
Right. He's been in all roles.
He's been in all roles. Find me a coach that can at least bring that to the table, not to mention his commitment, his expertise, a 2-sport athlete. In college, he was a 3-sport athlete. There are just so many skills that he brings to the table that people aren't aware of. And I kind of like it that way, because all these doubters and haters,
right,
it's cool. Bring it. Keep it coming. He actually calms me down because I get so worked up because people don't really understand his level of commitment and skills, asking people for advice. Look at the coaching staff he surrounded himself with.
Crazy.
It is phenomenal.
NFL coaches
NFL coaches.
stealing them from Nick Saban.
He's doing okay. So that's how it went. We didn't know what was going to happen. He was interviewing for a couple Power 5 jobs. And then we were very fortunate to have been introduced to A.D. Robinson at Jackson State. And they just wanted to take a chance, as did we. And, let's all link arms and let's go do it. And we're so proud of the work that was accomplished there, both on field and off. Our company still consults in a few manners for them. We started a speaker series and we were able to build them a new football field. And then we worked on the tennis courts and some softball fields. And I know there was some static when he left, but I don't know what else he could have accomplished in such a short amount of time. I'll leave it at that. But in the moment when he said that to me, it's not like I had time to think about all this. It was no different than when I said to Strahan after he filled in for Regis Philbin, this is what you're going to do. This was with Deion. It's like, I just have a weird gut, sixth sense feeling about what makes sense for them for their next chapters.
Well, he's certainly turned the college football world upside down. It's so much fun to watch. I love that he is committed to, hey, here's the situation you've given me. Here are the rules as they exist. If the rules say it can be done, we're going to give it a run.
Right.
I love it. Snoop Dogg fascinates me. You had a memorable encounter with him before you were actually his manager, when you were still working in marketing.
I was working in a management company called The Firm. I was brought in to do strategic marketing, brand partnerships, things of that nature. Snoop met some of folks from our team at a Super Bowl party and ended up coming into the company as a client. And he had a manager for everything you can imagine, whether it was touring, radio promotion, film, TV. I don't even remember how many folks there were, but there was a lot of us. And then I was brought in on the marketing side. He comes to this meeting and we had one of those big Hollywood boardrooms, wooden table and all the glass windows. And he came in with a few folks and his wife, Shantae, who's one of my best friends, was there as well. And we laugh about this. He's in a purple fur coat, sits at the head of the table and he turns his back to everybody and he's looking out the window. And everyone's just kind of looking at each other. You respond now and again. And then it was my turn. And I was just like, hey, we're all here for you. And if you don't want to hear what we have to say, we can leave and go back to our offices and work with people that do. Like, we're cool.
You said this to the guy that was at the head of the table.
Yeah, to the Yonkers again. I always credit Lawrence Taylor the way I react to people like that and all the NFL players I worked with. If you just speak to them, not at them, and not be afraid of them, you're going to get what you give. 2 days later, when my boss called and said, Snoop called and they want you leading the team. They said they want the girl from the NFL. I was like, I'm not a manager. They said you are now.
Yeah.
I wasn't just trying to be disrespectful, but I had a lot of other clients in business to tend to with Enrique Iglesias and Kelly Clarkson and Lincoln Park, all the big acts we had, that if it blew up, I was going to be okay. Whereas many people could get fired for something like that. I'm not saying what I did was right by any means, but it worked. And we had an awesome run. All my 30s were for him. And he was already on top of the world, but he just had so much more to give. And we just helped him tap into every talent he has to become the global icon he is today. And I turned 40 and I was like, I love you, but I need a life. We stayed obviously very good friends and we still worked together. You know what? It's family. That's where we're at. It's family.
You commanded the moment, but the moment wasn't, hey, listen to me. It was, hey, if you don't want to listen to me, I'll leave.
Right. I still deal with that back turn to me, metaphorically speaking, even at the level of being a CEO, founder, having launched the post careers of Michael Strahan and Deion Sanders and launching a business with Erin Andrews. There's still rooms I'm not invited in. You just have to determine what's the right time, how to say it, look at who your audience is. You can't just reference, well, it worked for her. It did. It worked at that point for what I had. If there's no room at the table that you want to sit at, go build your own table and have people at your table that you want to be there.
There's a great visual in that. There's some rooms, even today, for all you've achieved, that you still feel like you're not invited into. How do you deal with that today?
Oh, well, it depends. There's some of them that there's nothing I can do about it. So I just have to literally practice my meditation or go take a walk on the beach. Sometimes I just let it go automatically. It's frustrating, as you can imagine, but at the same time, stop looking at what you didn't accomplish and look at what you've accomplished.
Mm.
One of the great pieces of advice my friend Stacy gave me that I was talking about earlier, and that sticks with me. We've got to stop beating ourselves up and we've got to look at what we've accomplished. We weren't supposed to be here. I mean, how unlikely was it that Constance Schwartz from Yonkers, not Scarsdale, who went to SUNY Oswego, not Syracuse, who had no contacts whatsoever, had no silver spoon, is now doing what I'm doing and built what I built. I'm not supposed to be here. Instead of looking at the rooms I'm not in, look at the rooms I'm in and look at the rooms that I built because there wasn't room for me at someone else's table.
I love it. The problem with too many high achievers is that you don't ever take that time to reflect.
No.
Because the second you've accomplished something, it's on to the next.
Right.
Which means there's no time to sit and say, look at the room.
Right.
Wow. Well, that's great advice. You say your confidence comes from another strong woman, your mother. Give me some key things your mother taught you through the years that still help you as a leader today.
The when, not if, for sure. When I was up for the assistant position at the NFL, she said, you claim that job. That job's yours. You're going to get it. You have to go into that room with the mindset that this is your job. That's just how she's been as far back as I can remember, because she's also like an unlikely story. She was born in 1926 to immigrants, grew up in Charlotte, was the only girl of the family to go not just to college, but away to college, was the first Greek girl in the community that went away to college. She was able to live in New York City in her youth, but then she ended up moving back. And then she didn't meet my dad and get married till she was 41 or 42 and had me at 43, which in the 60s was unheard of. Like,
right. Oh, yeah.
The nurse said to her, we're going to lie on your daughter's birth certificate and say that you're 10 years younger, so she's not known as the kid with the older mom in school. That's crazy. So,
but I love that. Claim that job. And how about the confidence to be able to teach you that? How powerful is that?
I know. She always says to me, she's like, I was born too early. I would have been a CEO if I was born later.
Well, guess what? She gave you the opportunity to be that exact same CEO.
She did.
What a very cool story. Sports were a part of your early life.
Yep.
Left-handed pitcher on a Sacred Heart High School softball team. You were a little small. They called you Shorty.
That's right.
What did you learn in those windows on the field that helped influence who you would become?
So I was not the star by any means. I was the backup. They had a great, powerful team, but without realizing it then, I was proud to be the backup. I was happy to be a part of a team. I couldn't hit the ball very far. I mean, I was literally, I think, 5 feet tall and weighed like 90, 95 pounds. Like I did not have strength on my side. But what I could do is get down so low
that you had a hard strike zone.
I had a hard strike zone. It wasn't about me as an individual. It was like, how can I contribute to the team? And it doesn't matter how great I played my position if the team loses.
Right.
If you look at any great leader, there's some anchor in sports because it's about teamwork. And we don't allow for foolishness. When people are infighting at the company, we're like, fix this or else we're getting involved. Like, I know there's a lot of other agencies out there that like cutthroat competitiveness with each other, not having it. Doesn't mean everyone's not competitive. It's not all kumbaya and la, la, la. I need people to make their numbers and grow the business, but it only works if they support one another.
Wow. So you talked about it doesn't matter how well you play if the team loses, and that you want to make sure that even on your team today at SMAC, you're instilling that. How do you do that? How do you get them to all realize that you'll get the credit if we all win, but it doesn't do you any good to have credit if we lose?
A lot of it's just leading by example. There's no job too big or too small for any of us. I'm the first one, as is Michael, to throw out the garbage when I see it overflowing. And I know that sounds so silly and we laugh about it, but it's indicative of the bigger task. If your leader is willing to go bring you the cup of coffees to take out the garbage, what else is everybody willing to do? And if you just see the commitment that we have to this business, to our clients, to our shows, to our employees, the pandemic, that impacted everything in the beginning, except for Michael being on Good Morning America, because we didn't know what was going to happen with football yet, because that was in March. it was dicey. I mean, all productions were halted, all of our manufacturing was halted, retail stores were closed. And he and I looked at each other and we're like, you know what? We're not taking any money ourselves. We're going to make sure these kids are all getting paid their full salary and getting through this and make up for it on the back. And I'm fortunate enough to be in that position. When you lead by example like that, it doesn't give much room for the team to then come out of it and sort of say, hey, I need a raise or this and that. It's like, you saw, right? You see where we are in the world right now. Let me also be clear. It's not like everybody's getting along all the time, but there's always respect for each other. That's the key thread. It's like, we are a team. It's the SMAC team. It's Team SMAC or the SMAC family. I do my best when screening candidates come into the company that they have that same DNA as the rest of us.
I like that.
My track record's not always great, unfortunately. People give good interviews, and sometimes it's not until they come into a business.
That's true with all of us. Yeah.
But how we find out real fast if they are able to swim in an entrepreneurial-based company is, are they an entrepreneur at heart?
Mm.
We've had people who are so successful at a big company come in, awesome folks. And when they have to just figure it out after a year, they're like, I need to be back at a big company. I'm like, I get it. Stay here until you can get back into the big company. And there's nothing wrong with that. Our way is not the right way. It's just the right way for us.
Right.
So many people don't understand. There's no playbook. There's no training.
Right.
Here's your responsibilities. We're all here to help onboard you, but you kind of got to figure it out. And it wasn't on purpose. It's just, I guess, because I'm still figuring it out. I wish there was a playbook. We might think you have an entrepreneurial spirit, but if you don't, you're better off at a more structured company.
I love it. So I want to ask you one question we've asked every guest we've had. Many corporations overuse the phrase teams when they talk about their organization. They're not really a team. They're a bunch of folks who just happen to be hired by the same company. You've been part of teams. You've built teams. You've been around people that have built teams. If you had to counsel someone listening today about how to take a group of individuals and form them together, bond them into a team, what are some of the things you would offer?
It doesn't happen in the office per se. Out of office interactions are so important.
Mm.
And look, I know if you have 500 people, that's not so simple, but do a breakfast, go have the bowling night. Like, it's so important to have events and staff meetings. I know my team doesn't like them. I don't care, because there's so much that happens in that room that they don't see that I see. That's so important.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a time constraint. So the way we do it is name your top 3 things that you want to discuss. 2 might be great accomplishments, but the third one is like, I need help.
Mm.
We don't frown on people asking for help. In that room, it's a safe room. You know, there's no dumb questions. There's no bad answers per se. It's really where we do a lot of our brainstorming. And we'll see, like, coach has so much going on. There wasn't enough time in the staff meetings. And we realized, wow, we need a weekly call just about coach, because his business impacts every single person at SMAC, including Michael. Everybody is working on Coach Prime and the Prime effect right now.
Including me.
Including you. Including you.
It never stops.
You are certainly in it with us. But without that room, I wouldn't know that we need Sam have that spinoff Coach Prime Weekly Update.
Yeah. You know, you used to tell yourself, this is an article I read about you, that you absolutely did not want to own a business or start a business. Here you are running this fantastical organization that literally is touching so many people. How do you get from, I don't want any piece of that, to the entrepreneur that you are today?
I got fired. I was in denial about it, but I got fired, which was the best thing to happen. This was when I was working for LBI Management Company. I just parted ways with Snoop. Michael wasn't Michael. Michael was, had his Fox deal and had a TV series. I needed help. I didn't know the TV space the way the folks I was working with did. And I just started putting feelers out to see if there was a better organization to help me build with Michael. And they heard about it and they said, look, I think at the end of the year, we should just part ways. And I was obviously stunned and shocked, but it was good that it happened, because all those meetings I was taking about where I should go Not one of them saw what I could see, which is my 10 years at the NFL, what I learned there, the decade I had managing Snoop and what I learned there. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just be in a reality TV situation because I produced Snoop Dogg's Fatherhood. I didn't want to just be the brand partnerships person. I didn't want to just be a talent manager. I was like, what I have learned, that's the future of business. So that's how I started. It was really just survival.
But isn't that the beauty of true entrepreneurship? Often it's a mother of invention.
Right.
A moment pushes you out of your comfort zone because that's where you have to be
Big time.
to be a true
Yep.
entrepreneur. Your team, they have that in them.
Yeah.
Pretty special stuff.
That's it. And, as an entrepreneur, I've learned to be comfortably uncomfortable.
Wow. Powerful. So how can our guests best learn more about SMAC, learn more about you? How do they find and follow you? What's the best way to follow you?
Well, SMAC has a website, smac-ent.com. And that website, I don't know how they do it, but every day there's something new going on for not just SMAC, but for our clients. And then we have the SMAC social media, and I'm starting to do more podcasts like this. My team does a great job. If people have questions they want to hear, they should just DM SMAC. We have an info@smac-ent.com email.
I love it. Constance, so grateful. It's been an honor to get to know you over this year, getting a chance to learn all that you all do. It's amazing, the different places you touch.
Thank you.
Thanks today for being a corporate competitor with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and so thrilled, and again, we're just so honored that you said yes to help bring Coach Prime's book to life. So thank you.
I don't think there's any question why Constance was such an important part of our plan to bring content to you. She is so good. Lessons all over the place. In fact, I always give you 3, but today you're going to get a bonus one because it was so good. Her first lesson to me was the importance of asking mentors, asking people, reaching out to others who have experienced something that you haven't quite yet, and boldly asking that question, am I missing something here? The ability to ask someone, give them permission to call you blind if that's necessary, give you guidance. It takes a special person to do that. That's why she is where she is. The lessons from her mom mean so much to me. When an uber successful woman actually can look and talk about her mom as she does, and the idea that her mom taught her when, not if, that she needed to approach the world with confidence. She needed to claim jobs. Don't just wait to see if they're actually going to happen. Claim it. The third real standout moment was when she talked about the experience of both playing softball, but then teaching this into her own business. It doesn't matter how well I play if the team loses. Being able to weave that in, make that part of her business today, is the reason why SMAC is doing what it's doing and the success that it's having. And she wanted to make sure that all of her team always understood that meetings were a place to ask for help, and they were an extremely safe space for the organization. But the fourth one, and the one that I will not soon forget, is that if you're not invited to the table, go build your own table. Don't be caught up worrying about the rooms you're not in. Be grateful for the rooms you are. That ability to have that perspective and to not be fixated on things that aren't going your way, but actually to go create success. That is the hallmark of what makes Constance Schwartz-Morini the superstar that she is. I learned so much today. I'm better as a corporate competitor. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir. How are
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. I appreciate you.